Bruchim Abayim, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are at the bottom of Daf Gimel Amud Bet, starting a new sugya, 4 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Today's Amud is being learned L'schut Refuah Shelema of Rachel Simcha Bad Nahid, Yael Bad Loren Esther Shoshana, and for the Tzlacha and Yeshua of Arvin Netanel Ben Sonia. We started going through tangent that the Gemara goes until we get to the next Mishnah Be'ezrat Hashem, and the last one is a very interesting one about the halachot of mikvaot. As we mentioned before, a mikveh that needs to be kasher if it's not a Mayim Chayim, if it's not connected to the source of water, being a spring of water, a river, an ocean, needs to be 40 se'ah measurement of what we call gathered water of ashboren from kosher water that has not been tampered by human hand. So therefore, it's not Mayim Shuvim, it's not water that has been bucketed out in a kli, but natural flow of water gathered in a container, a natural container, not a kli, which contains 40 se'ahs of water. Now what happens if you have less than 40 se'ah and things get mixed with it? Well, there is a psul d'Rabbanan, a rabbinic level of psul, that if you have shlosha lugin, it's not a lot of water, shlosha lugin. As we mentioned before, every log is 6 bitzas. Kabetzah that we talk about, so it's 12 kazayits, so to speak, the way we deal with the Masechet Rishonim really, but the way we deal with it is only 12 kazayits. It's not a lot of water in the grand scheme of things. When you have like a large space and you pour water of shlosha login, it's very minute. If you have shlosha login of water of mayim shuvim mixed with a mikveh prior to it being 40 se'ah, that mikveh is. What about if you have shlosha login of yayin? Shlosha login of yayin does not, it's mayim that makes it pasul. We mentioned the whole history behind why this D'Rabbanan exists, because people should not make mistake that mayim shubin, the clean water that they used to pour on the head of the woman coming out, or the man for ta'arot, that came out of the dirty natural body of water, they would go to shichin me'arot, they would go to natural water that was not flowing, and a water that's static, not flowing, it will be not as clean. So you would come out and pour the water on. Also, by the way, my grandfather Harav Shalom used to say, it's important parentheses, said in Yazd, where they used to live, I actually visited as a 15-year-old, so wanted to go see different Jewish communities in Iran, and we got there to Yazd at 2 o'clock in the morning, I think, with a train, and it was frozen. It was so cold. So my grandfather used to say that people would go with their wives. They had to break the ice in the rivers, whatever the kosher body of water was that they did. And a woman go to mikveh mesirut nefesh, and sometimes it was so cold, it was, you want to have a cardiac arrest or whatnot. They would bring hot water for them to be able to pour and into the immediate area, that it should not be like as freezing. It should be at least doable to jump in. It's a mesirut nefesh that they did. But people would, in the olden days, pour clean water on top of them right after they came out, and people started saying that no, that's the water that actually makes you tahor. So Chazal said no mayim shuvim, right? And as we'll see, the tremendous chumras on top of chumras, a lot of astringencies when it comes to this. So therefore, mayim is a problem. Yayin, if you put 3 login of yayin inside, it's not pasul unless what? Unless the mar'eh of the entire mikveh changes. If the color of the entire mikveh changes, then it becomes pasul. But short of that, it's kasher. Fine?
Even if that raises it to 40 saw?
Well, it doesn't make it pasul. It does not make it pasul. Right? If afterwards water was added to it, it does not make it pasul. Now, this, by the way, actually is very important for people who run the mikveh, and there are a lot of pool accessories that you could have, like a blue water and this. You cannot do that in mikveh necessarily. You have to be careful. So says the Gemara. Let's go quickly through the few lines that we did yesterday to have a complete piece over here. V'amar Rav Yehuda amar Rav, another halacha from Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. So remember, this is the psak of Rav that we're learning. Shloshet lugin mayim shnafal letochan kortov shel yain. If you have 3 login of mayim sheubim, right, in a bucket, and a little wine also falls in, now it looks like diluted wine, and then this falls into the mikveh afterwards, umar'ehen k'mar'eh yain, it looks like watered down wine, v'naflu lemikveh, and they fall into a mikveh which is chaser, lo pasluhu. Rav said, Hazak u'baruch, this mikveh still is not pasul. Right? This mikveh did not become pasul because of the, even though this is a massive chidush, Rabotai. Because how much water did you have before in the bucket before the wine fell in? A full 3 login. So you have a case that 3 login of water fall into a mikveh and still is not pasul. Why? Rav says because it doesn't look like wine, or like water. It looks like wine. So even though that you actually had the measurement of 3 login, kasher. Why? It doesn't look like water. It looks like wine. The problem is with water. It's the mar'eh that matters, not the shiur. So that's what we're going to be debating back and forth. Is it the measurement of 3 login that matters? Or is it more the looks of it? Because what looks like wine, people are not going to mix it up with water. So this whole thing that we explained of Mayim Shubim is not really a problem. So it seems here that Rav is mekel, is lenient, that even though that you have this shiur of 3 login water that always would render the mikveh invalid if the mikveh is chaser, still here will be good because it doesn't look like water. It looks like wine, you're good to go. So it says, the Gemara, 2 lines up, Amar le Rava. So, wait a second, I skipped. Says the Gemara, they asked him a question, they said, wait a second, this seems to stand in sharp contradiction and contrast with another braita that we learned. Matkifla Rav Kana. Rav Kana was one of the best students of Rav, right? Like a whole story with him, and he was Rav Yehuda and Rav Kana were 2 of the top, all-time top students of Rav, right? Now, the truth of the matter is, just in parentheses, there are at least 5 Rav Kanas in Shas. So not every Rav Kana is created equally. But here it seems to be that this is the famous Rav Kana, the student of Rav, who when he came, he had to run away from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. And Rav, knowing the personality of Rabbi Yochanan was a very specific person. And if you hurt the feelings of Rabbi Yochanan, you would not walk unsketched from up above. Rabbi Yochanan was a tremendously beloved person by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whoever hurt his feelings, they drop dead, basically. You have it by Resh Lakish, you have it by Rav Kana, you have it by many other scenarios as well. So Rav actually warned Rav Kana. He said, you go there for 7 years, you zip your mouth, don't argue anything, because he knew the capabilities of Rav Kana, and he knew that he's going to hurt the feelings of Rabbi Yochanan, and then it will be a funeral, right? And that's the Gemara in Bava Kama Zayin. But nevertheless, this is Rav Kana. So Rav Kana says, wait a second. How does this work? I have a braita that seems exactly not like this. Let's read this together. What's the difference between this and meseva? Means water that has become colored by someone washing their hands inside. Let's imagine a sabah, someone that would dye wool. His hands are full of dye, and now he washes his hands, and the water now looks like metzeva. It looks like colored water, and says the Gemara, now we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Meseva, Poslin et hamikveh b'shlosha login. You have 3 login of water that's colored, so it doesn't look like water, it's colored, and yet it makes the mikveh pasul. So you're telling me if you have 3 login of water that some wine fell in and looks like wine, it's kasher. When it falls in the mikveh, that's chaser. I show you a Mishnah that says black and white that if you have 3 login of colored water, it's pasul, no good. So that's like a checkmate. Says no, it's not checkmate. You're not listening. Rava said no. Hata maya desiva mikri. You said it yourself. There is, what's it called? Colored water. It's water. In eyes of people, this is water. Mashenken, the case of Rav, what do people call it? Watered down wine. It looks like wine. And therefore, in the eyes of people, this is not associated with water. Here it's called watered down, diluted wine. So says the Gemara. Didn't we learn in the Mishnah? Now this is the Gemara bringing an argument with Rav. So let's keep track of this in our minds, because it has a little back and forth, but really is not complicated if you get the beginning of it straight. So we have a chidush from Rav, that if I have a mikveh that's chaser, that's not complete 40 says, and then I have this bucket of water, which already is 3 login of water, and then on top of the 3 login, I have some more wine, then this gets mixed with the mikveh, it's still not pasul, right? That's Rav. Now the Gemara says, well, I have a Rabbi Chia that says that this is pasul. So it's machloket Rav and Rabbi Chia. So you gotta do something about this. Last line. V'atani Rabbi Chia, we learned in the Braita that Rabbi Chia says, horidu et amikveh. If you do this, the mikveh is down, right? So Rav says it's kasher. Rabbi Chia says no, it's not good. Amar Rava says no, it's not a kasha. Harav Yochanan ben Nuri Harabanan says this is an old-time, long-standing machloket. Did not start with Rav and Rabbi Chia, but really started in a Mishnah nonetheless, in Masechet Makkot, from machloket Rabbanan and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Machloket Tanaim already. Ditnan. As we learned in Masechet Makkot, Perek Zayin, Mishnah Hey, the Mishnah says, Shloshet login ma'im chaser kortov. Now listen to what happened here. We're changing a little bit here, right? Shloshet login ma'im chaser kortov. If you have a bucket of water, and what's the measurement? 3 login minus a little bit. So you don't have 3 login. You have a little bit shy of 3 login of water. So says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Shenafal letochan kortov yayin, that now you have a little mixture of yayin inside of it. So you have some wine. Now it became shlosha login. Now the complete mixture is 3 login. But how much of it is water? Not 3 login, less than 3 login, right? So if you have this bucket that's exactly 3 login, which majority of it is water and a little wine, so that's the difference between our case. Because our case, originally, case of Rav, you have 3 login of water. And that's the whole massive chidush. That even though that you have 3 login of water, it's this kasher. The Mishnah is talking about a different case. That you have less than 3 login, you added some wine, looks like diluted wine, and now it's 3 login. But no 3 login of pure water. So says the Gemara, it looks like diluted wine, and he falls into a mikveh that is missing some shiur from 40 se'ah, lo paslu. It's not pasul, right? So it sounds like Rav, but the only thing is it's exactly opposite of Rav. Why is this opposite of Rav? Because the Mishnah clearly says that the amount of water was less than 3, which indicates clearly that if it was 3 login of water, Even though that the wine was added afterwards and it looks like diluted wine, the halacha would be pasul. So now you have that. This is a punch in the gut to what Rav said. This is a Mishnah, right? So says Gemara, another case also. So this is the first scenario of the Mishnah. Second scenario of the Mishnah is with chalav. Some milk got mixed with water. Same scenario. You have 3 login short of a little bit, shy of a little bit. Less than 3 login of water. You have some milk mixed with it, and milk is not really strong color, it's white. So when it gets mixed with a lot of water, the outcome looks like water, right? The subtotal of the color looks like water. And he falls to the mikveh, again, lo paslu, it's not pasul. The mikveh still maintains its status. Then the end of the Mishnah says, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri disagrees with this psak. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri omer, hakol holech achar hamar'eh. Everything follows the looks, not the shiur. Everything follows the looks. So, says the Gemara, before we get into the kishkas of this machloket, Gemara says the basic observation, which we made already, that you see from the beginning of the Mishnah, not like Rav. Remember, Rav said if you have 3 login of water, and on top of it some wine, it looks like wine, gets mixed in the mikveh, kasher. Even though that you have 3 login of water. And here the Mishnah is saying, if you have less than 3 login of water, then it's fine, which indicates that if you have already 3 login of water, that the mikveh is pasul because you have shir. So, which means, let's put it in terminology that makes it easy, Rav cares about looks, and if it looks like wine, it's kasher, even though that you had 3 login of water, right? Rav cares about the looks, the color, and the Mishnah, the Tanakama of our Mishnah, cares about measurements, looks, measurement, right? So if you have 3 login of water, even if you mix wine enough that it looks like diluted wine, still is pasul. Because you have measurement of 3 login, I don't care what it looks like. When it's measurement of 3 login of water, pasul across the board. That's what it seems like, right? Okay, so says the Gemara like this. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri omer hakol olech achar amar. And says the Gemara, Hami baya bayi le Rav Papa. Now, the Gemara says Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, as of right now, we are suggesting that Rav holds like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, that everything goes according to Mar'eh, everything goes according to the looks, and Rav Chia is following the Tanakama, the Rabbanan, that everything follows the shiur, the measurement. That's how the suggestion is. Gemara says, wait a second, Rav Papa had a question. It's not so simple. Hamibaya baile Rav Papa. The Baile Rav Papa, how do we know? Because Rav Papa said the following. Rav Tani Chaser Kortov Beresha, Aval Shlosha Login Letanakama Pasli. Rav Papa had a question in our Mishnah. Let me explain this outside, and then we'll go back inside. Rav Papa said, what is the girsa of our Mishnah? This is again a Mishnah in Perek Zayin of Masechet Makkot. And Rav Papa said, I'm not sure what the girsa is exactly in the beginning of the Mishnah. Is it that the Mishnah says, if you have 3 login of water minus a little bit, which is the way we have the Mishnah, and then wine got mixed with it, and then it fell into the mikveh, which we already learned what that means. That's the girsa that we have, which would indicate that if you had 3 login of water, then would be a problem, even if it ends up looking like wine. And therefore, Rav is not like Tanakama, right? Rav would not be like the Tanakama of the Mishnah. Is that or maybe the girsa is Shlosha login water without missing anything. Complete 3 login of water that got mixed with wine, which is exactly the case of Rav. So that would turn out to be that Rav, the psak of Rav, is exactly what the Mishnah says, right? The Mishnah in Mikvaot is saying exactly what Rav said. If you have 3 login of water, full 3 login, and it got mixed with wine, still is kasher, right? And what would be the machloket Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and Rav then? Then Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would just be more machmir. And let me explain. Then Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would be saying that yes, correct, if you have wine, meaning according to this, everybody cares about the looks. Everybody. It's not a machloket looks and measurement. Everybody cares about looks, because the Tarakama of the Mishnah also is saying if you have 3 login of water and then it ends up looking like wine, it's still kasher. So looks is important, even though that you have the shiur, the measurement of 3 login of water. So what's the machloket Tanaim? What's the machloket Rabbanan and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri would be super machmir to say that by milk, when you have milk mixed with it, even if you don't have 3 login of water, you have 2.5 login of water, and then you have half a log of milk that got mixed with it, or whatever, kortov, a little bit of milk that got mixed with it, still the whole thing is pasul, because it looks like water at the end of the day. So even though that you don't have 3 login of water, it passes the mikveh because it looks like water. So he goes super duper machmir with the looks. Whereas Rav or Tarakama would say if you don't have 3 login of water, chabal, nothing, right? So that would be the second way of learning the Mishnah, right? So Rav Papa didn't know if this girsah is correct, this version is correct, this text is correct, or the other text is correct. So says the Gemara, I'm not just reading what we learned outside. The Rav Papa, Rav Tani Chaser Korto Beresha, Aval Shlosha Login Le Tarakama Pasli, but 3 login, if you had actually 3 full login, Tarakama would say it's pasul. Va'ata Rabbi Yochanan lememar hakol holech achar hamar'eh, and Rabbi Yochanan is saying that everything follows the looks of it. Rav Omer Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and Rav would turn out to be not according to everyone. Rav would be only according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, or Dilma, or maybe our girsah is incorrect, and Rav lo tani chaser kortov beresha. Maybe it doesn't say chaser kortov in the beginning. So beginning of the Mishnah is talking about the case that you have 3 full login of water, and still Tarakama says it's kasher. So therefore it turns out to be that Rav is according to everybody, both Chachamim and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri ki palig asefa hu de palig. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri only argues in the case of milk at the sefa. Reisha is not a machloket taraim. The Rav Damar k'divrako, and it turns out that the psak of Rav that we had here 4 lines up is according to everyone. Everybody agrees that if you have 3 login of water, even though that you have 3 full login of water, if it ends up looking like wine, it does not disqualify the mikveh. So says the Gemara, the Rav Papa mi baile, the Rav Peshitale, the Rava Peshitale. He says, yeah, the Rav Papa had that question, but Rava had it clear that this is machloket between Tanaim, and therefore the psak of Rav is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Amar Rabbi Yosef, lo shmiali. Rabbi Yosef said, I don't remember this. I never heard of this psak. Now, Rabbi Yosef, preface, Rabbi Yosef got some sort of sickness that caused him to forget everything that he had learned. Very sad reality. Rabbi Yosef was one of the Gdolei HaMoraim, and Abaye, the famous Abaye, is a student of Rabbi Yosef. And when Rabbi Yosef went through his sickness and came out alive and well, but lost majority of his memory, you find many times in Shas says, I don't know this, I never heard this. And Abaye very gently would remind him, he said, actually you taught this to us. And he would proceed by saying exactly what he had taught them prior to his sickness. So this is one case of such nature. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef said, Lo shmi ali ashmat, I never heard this psak. And Abaye says to him, Amar le Abaye, At amrat lani alan. You said it to us, actually. You know how we know it? Because you said it to us before your sickness. Vehaki amrat. And this is how you said it. You said it like the second way, right? The second way that we just explained in the girsa, the second girsa in the Mishnah that we just discussed, based on our Papa, that Rav lo tani chaser kortov, that Rav did not learn in the Mishnah, in Mikvaot, Perek Zayin, he didn't learn that the water was missing a little bit. He learned that the water was 3 full login of water. Bereisha, Rabbi Yochanan Asef Apay, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is only disagreeing with the case of milk, which is a super duper chumrah, that even though that you don't have 3 login of water, still the mikveh would be pasul because it looks like water. The subtotal 3 login looks like water, because milk does not really change the color that much, and therefore it would be pasul. The Rav Damar Kidivra Kol, and Rav, his Pesach of Rav, that the water that was 3 login mixed with wine that looks like wine, even though that it contains 3 full login of water, still does not render the mikveh pasul. So that's the Pesach that we dealt with. Okay. That's the last psak. Again, these are tangents. We start from Edim Zomemin and Galut, and we ended up in Mikvaot, which is amazing. But we're done with that part. It's, again, important things that people think in COVID, especially during COVID, there were people who thought that with a few $1,000s you can make a kosher mikveh, and what's the big deal about having a mikveh, right? But when you start learning the mishnayot of mikvaot and the halachot of mikvaot, very quickly you realize that that's the biggest mistake of your life. Mikvaot need to not just be built by massive Talmidei Chachamim who are experienced, but even if you had the best mikveh in the world, if you don't have a Talmid Chacham on top of the maintenance of a mikveh, you could probably assume that it's problematic after just about a few months. Right, so it's the halachot of mikvah that are intricate, complex, and need to be handled and monitored by someone that actually knows the details of halachot of mikvah. That's just an important process. It says the Gemara, "V'amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, Chavit Mele'a Mayim Shnafla." I want to just finish unto the Mishnah quickly. Chavit Mele'a. This is another level of chumrah for you to see how Chachamim were machmir on halachot of mikvaot, not risking anything that could have a resemblance of Ma'im She'uvim for people not to make these mistakes. So here is a massive chumrah. Listen to this. You're in the middle of Pacific Ocean with a boat, calm waters, and you're mamash in the middle of the ocean, right? You can't get a better mikveh than that. You have a massive chavit shel mayim. You have a big barrel of water, and you pour the water inside the ocean, and immediately somebody jumps to do mikveh over there, right? Kasher or pasul? Pasul. I'm in the middle of Pacific Ocean. Pasul. Why? Because the water is not as calm, and especially, well, if you know the physics of it, Atlantic and the Pacific don't mix because of the consistency of water is different. You've seen, people know this, right? You can't mix the water of Atlantic and Pacific. You go by the border, the 2 different colors, right?
In Cabo.
Exactly, that's what it is. You see green, blue, and they don't mix. You put it in a jar, they don't mix, right? Consistencies are different. It's amazing. So, well, and there's a lot to be said about physics of this, but forget about that. We are concerned that there's 3 login, a little bit mixed with that water over there when you went to dip. Invalid, right? So, a full barrel of water that fell into the ocean, the Yam HaGadol, hatover sham, if you immediately afterwards jump in and do tefillah over there, lo alta lo tefillah. It's not a kosher tefillah. Chayshina l'shlosha login shelo yiyu b'makom echad. We are concerned that there are still 3 login of water gathered together, not mixed with the water of the ocean, and therefore it would be a problem. But dafka Yam HaGadol, only Yam HaGadol, which the water is very calm, right, very peaceful. That's when we say this. But if you have a river, if you have some water that has good movement, or by the shore that is a lot of waves and movement, by then we're not concerned. The kai, the middle of the ocean, the water is steady and doesn't have a lot of movement. The kaima aval nara, but in a river or water that moves a lot, then it's fine. Tananami Achi, we learned it in Braita. Also, Chabit Yain Shlaf Le'am Gadol, we learned this in Braita. Same thing. That if a lot of water falls into a peaceful Yam Gadol, Pacific, or any ocean for that matter, Hatover Sham Lo Alta Lo Tefillah. If you immediately after that jump in, the Tefillah is not good. Chayshina LeShlosha Login Sheuvin Shelo Yu B'Makom Echad. We are concerned for this Shlosha Login being together and hassling your mikveh that you did not fully immerse in the ocean, the kosher water. Vechen Kikar Shel Teruma Shenafal Sham Tameh. Not only that, you want to know acrobatic chumrah. Here is acrobatic chumrah, that if the man was tameh and jumped in and now came out or didn't come out, and right away a loaf of bread of terumah fell in that place where he is, right? So not only he is tameh still and didn't become tahor, but we assume that there's some mayim shuvin next to him, right, which has not mixed, and that now became tameh by the man touching it, and it's going to be metameh the kikar teruma. That's like an acrobatic chumrah on top of chumrah. So ma'vechen ma'u the tema hatam oki gavra acheska. So what's the chidush? Of course it's going to be like that. Once you tell me that he's not kasher, he's not tahor, of course the logic follows. Mas says no, this is a massive chumrah. You know why? Ma'u the tema hatam oki gavra acheskate. I would have said that maybe here you're keeping the person on his chazakah. Here also you're keeping the teruma on his chazakah. The teruma is kasher until now. Keep it on its chazakah. The halacha is, even though that you have cheskat tahor, until now the teruma was tahor. In other words, the man was tameh until now. So it's not a big chidush to say you were tameh, you stay tameh. Because we don't know if the mikveh was kasher. That's easy to say. Just keep your chazakah. Until now, your status was that of tameh, you keep your status. But to say that the status of terumah goes from being tahor to now becoming tameh, changing status, that's a bigger chidush, and still we say it as a very big chumrah in these halachot. Kamash malan, we're up to Mishnah, Be'ezrat Hashem. We'll continue back to our normal sugya of edim zomemim and makot in the days to come. Hazak u'baruch.